My name is Endeavorance, and I have testicles. And about a year ago, I want to say, I can't fully remember, I got the snip, just say the word, vasectomy. Vasectomy, if you're fancy. No one says vasectomy. But maybe they'll start. I wanted to make a video talking about my experience in getting the snip, and hopefully encourage some other people to also get the snip, because there's a looming threat of a federal abortion ban, and it's not a difficult process to actually get the snip, and it's not actually a big deal. It's also cheap, in some cases free, the recovery is very fast, and it's extraordinarily effective. So if you're the kind of person like me who knows they don't want kids or are done having them, this is for you. I'm gonna break this down into like the before, during, and after, and I'm also going to be talking about the things that are probably on your mind that you might not want to ask, because I learned stuff too, so we're in this together. Let's start with the before. How do you go from having seen this video to booking an appointment? Well, step one, you want a urologist. That's the kind of people who do this. So you look up urologists in your area, you try to find one that has decent reviews or exists. You can also look up nearby clinics or like a Planned Parenthood, stuff like that. Reminder, Planned Parenthood is not just like the abortion place. They're a whole ass like sexual health, family planning, clinic, everything. They do a lot of stuff. Stop trying to defund public health initiatives. Anyway, look up a place that's a urologist or a clinic or whatever and find their new patient information, call, submit, do whatever. Also, I hurt my fingy this morning. I cut it on, can we get some focus on that? No? This is important. I have to derail the entire video. I cut my fingy on the like little, the thing that cuts aluminum foil. You know, you go to like get aluminum foil and it's got that little like serrated edge to I like went to go grab some foil and I'm gonna die now. Anyway, I bring this up because this hurt more than the procedure. Where was I? Doctor. So you get an appointment with a doctor and they're gonna schedule a consultation with you. They're not gonna immediately be like, great, give me your nuts. My consultation was actually a video consultation even, and I'm never going to forget this appointment. My doctor calls me from his kid's elementary school classroom. It's like a career day kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, I'm here for this like career day, but I'm still doing calls. Anyway, let's talk about your reproductive system. So this man takes out a piece of paper and starts drawing a penis and balls on this paper. In the background is one of those like ABC like wallpapers. He's like, so this is where your cum comes from. And in the background, it's like, G is for giraffe. Anyway, that was fun. He basically just talked me through the procedure, talked me through some of the questions that I will answer now and also later, and really calmed my nerves a lot. So let's get through that first batch of questions because I know what's on your mind. Come on, let's get it out of the way. It doesn't change anything about the emissions. Volume, color, viscosity, literally nothing changes. Many people, myself included, don't know where things come from and go, aside from the universal truth that pee is stored in the balls. Jokes aside, not a lot is stored in the balls. They just make the actual reproductive cells that are a tiny portion of the total emission. Most of the juice, as it were, it comes from somewhere else, and they just kind of get blended together before they get shot out. So what's being snipped is just like cutting off 0.001% of the total stuff that comes out when it comes out. So yeah, no changes there. Also, no impact on desire or capability or not much of a problem doing your best Metapod impersonation. Is that the sound that Metapod makes? Anyway. What else? I think that's it for now. Let's move on. Day of. I'm gonna be honest, the prep is the worst part. You go in, they get you situated, they take off your pants and they get you cleaned up, and then they inject the anesthetic. They apply like a sort of a topical anesthetic where they then do the injection for the anesthetic. There's no getting around the fact that they're shoving a needle into your balls. Like you just can't get, this is the one part that you gotta grin and bear it. But if you're the kind of person that is seeking a vasectomy, you probably haven't dealt with periods. I'd say it's a fair trade, especially because it's like a momentary prick of pain, no worse than a bee sting. Not even that bad. And they're injecting numbing stuff, so it's like painful and then immediately goes away. So just deal with it. Once you've gotten that done, you go into the room and the procedure begins. Let's talk about the actual procedure because it's kind of interesting and it's a lot less violent than you might think. So the most common procedure used now is called scalpelless. Let me double check. Nope. NSV, no scalpel vasectomy. Glad I checked. That would have been massive disinformation. This was actually developed in China in the mid-70s in response to them clamping down their reproductive policy and whatnot. Remember the whole one-child policy thing that they had around the 80s? This was sort of like a, how do we make that actually possible? Now, whether or not that was a good thing is not the point here. The point is, someone, out of necessity by the law, invented a very easy and painless and effective method to do vasectomies. So what is it? And why is it better than just kind of like taking a knife and going like, Hua! Well, for one, they're not taking a knife and going like, hua. Instead, they take essentially like a little thing that makes a hole punch, like a tiny miniscopic. I think I went to go do minuscule and microscopic at the same time. They make a miniscopic keyhole, right? Like a tiny little hole. And that is how they access your vas deferens. That's the tube that connects the balls to the going out place. I'm not a urologist. Urethra. So they make a tiny hole on one side. They stick a little thing in there that burns the vas deferens shut. You don't feel it. You truly do not feel anything. The only weird part is that you can smell it. Now, I also got LASIK, and I might do a video on that for people who might be a little spooked by it. Similar thing, you can smell the burning flesh. It's weird, but that's the worst part. I'm gonna be honest, it went faster than I expected. I was told to expect about 5 minutes per side, and the doctor was like getting a little like shimmying up and whatnot, and I was like, oh, okay, he must be getting ready to start on the left side. And then he stood up and told me the left side was done. And he was like, time to move on to the right. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I just sat down. What are you talking about? I wanna say that I was on the table being actually operated on for like 2.5 minutes. It was just the doctor. There was a nurse kind of standing over me, holding me in place, presumably to prevent me from jolting around if something did go wrong. There was also 3 additional nurses kind of just standing off in the corner. I don't know what their job was. That was a little weird. You can't really get past the fact that you're sitting there hanging brain in front of just a bunch of people that you've never met before, but if you can kind of get past that mental block, it's not a big deal. Also, they're doctors, I hope. That'd be embarrassing. That'd be weird. And then that's it. They and then you're done. It's truly not a big deal. They give you some like gauze underwear and you go home. I drove myself home from my own appointment. That is the degree to which it's not a big deal. You get home, you ice it for a little while, and you wait a few days and you get better. But let's talk about that recovery. Let's talk about the specifics of the recovery. That's the point of this video, digging into how it actually goes. After the procedure, you need to not ejaculate for like somewhere between a week and a month. Your doctor will tell you. It's just to help make sure that everything takes. But despite having a like 99.85% efficacy, you still want to assume that it's dangerous until it's proven otherwise. That's right, remember, your penis is a deadly weapon. After a few days, the pain mostly goes away. After a few weeks, the only time that I remember really feeling pain is if I like stepped down a stair really quickly and like jolted myself a bit. If I got some discomfort. By 6 months, you won't remember when you got it done. I'm over a year out and I truly can't remember when I got it done. It was sometime last year. They'll schedule you a follow-up like 2 to 3 months out from your actual procedure where you're gonna bring them a sample and they're going to check it to see if it took. In my case, I brought it in. I was called like later that day. They're like, hey, you're good to go. Raw dog. Raw, you're good to go. You're good to go, raw dog. That's what my doctor said to me. As for complications or just like things to be aware of during the recovery period, the tiny pinhole procedure makes it really, really safe and effective and really reduces the chances of like bleeding and pain and complications in general, but they can happen. I actually know some people that did have some problematic complications, but they also still recommend people get the procedure done. So things that you could look out for are, just sort of lingering pain. Sometimes it gets really bad, but that's only like a 1.5% rate. If that happens, you call the doctor, they bring you back in immediately and they give you some help. Otherwise, it's primarily just like swelling and bruising. And there is one thing that I do need to tell you happens. After the procedure and a few weeks out, you might notice that at the incision sites, there are little nodules that you can feel. There's no easy way to say this. It's coagulated cum. It's like juices from the cut to the vas deferens that have like coagulated onto the site of the incision. It's completely harmless, I promise, and it goes away. But it's a thing, and it's weird. The doctor was like, this might happen. Do not worry. It is perfectly normal. It will resolve itself. And I felt it, and I'm just like, I don't want to think about this. I had to get it out there. I'm being as transparent as I can be. You'll thank me later. So let's talk cost. That's the final thing here, really. I'm gonna talk about cost in America because that's where I got mine done, and also that's all I know. The average vasectomy is gonna cost out of pocket with no insurance somewhere between $0 and like $3,000. Much more likely closer to the $1,000 range. That is out of pocket with no insurance. Now, if you have health insurance, it's actually pretty likely that they might cover your vasectomy in full. There's actually a handful of states that have laws on record requiring that. I'll put them on the screen. But yeah, vasectomies are often covered almost entirely by insurance. Medicare doesn't necessarily cover it, and in Medicaid, it's state by state, but private health insurance also covers quite a lot. And if it doesn't cover all of it, it likely covers most of it. So like, expect to pay either nothing, depending on your health insurance, or somewhere between like $500 and $1,000. In some cases, it can get much more expensive, but you can also, again, poke around and look for clinics or Planned Parenthood that often offers a significantly reduced rate. The only other thing to be concerned with is, and this is a real problem, finding a urologist, getting there, and they're like, oh, hey, do you have kids? You say no, they might give you some shit about it. I'm very happy to say that in my case, they were like, do you have kids? I said no, and I don't want them. I got exactly zero pushback. But it can happen, and it does happen, and sometimes it actually results in the doctor not operating on you, and that's not okay, but it can happen. There are resources online where you can actually find people who will recommend places that they know will go through with it, and if you have access to a relatively major metropolitan city center, you can almost definitely find a urologist there that won't give you any trouble. And then again, clinics, Planned Parenthood, all of them, like, you might run into some pushback. But again, generally, if you're seeking a vasectomy, you probably haven't dealt with much pushback in the medical field. Seems like a fair trade-off. Actually, it's not a fair trade-off because there shouldn't be any pushback whatsoever because people should get the medical care that they need and doctors shouldn't be imposing their own morals on their patients because that's fucking gross. But I digress. Go get your balls snipped if you don't want kids. Bye.